My name is Darren, and this is the story of the most terrifying few weeks of my life. It's been 4 years now, and even today, I can't stay in an apartment that has neighbors across the hall, because once I lived across from something that wasn't human. This happened when I was 24. I just landed a new job in a small city, didn't know anyone, barely had savings, so I picked the cheapest studio I could find. It was in an old 3-story apartment building called Hollow Pines Residences. Sounded nice, but trust me, there was nothing warm or welcoming about that place. I moved into apartment 3A, second floor, right across from another unit, apartment 3B. From the very first day, the hallway gave me weird vibes. It was always cold, dimly lit. The bulb outside 3B flickered nonstop. I joked to myself that the building felt haunted. I wish I had been wrong. On move-in day, I asked the landlord about 3B. The door looked dusty, like no one had opened it in years. "Oh, 3B?" he said casually. "Vacant. No one's lived there for a while. Place needs repairs." "Okay," I replied. "So no neighbor noise?" He smiled. "Nope. Should be nice and quiet." "Yeah, right." For the first few days, everything was fine. I set up my small place, got used to the job, and even started to enjoy living alone. Until night 4. I was up late watching something on my laptop. Around 1:30 a.m., just as I was about to turn in, I heard a loud dragging sound. It sounded like someone was slowly dragging furniture right across the hall in 3B. I paused. Maybe a new tenant had moved in? I opened my door and peeked out. The hallway was empty. The door to 3B hadn't moved. Still covered in dust, same flickering bulb, but the noise continued inside, dragging, then footsteps, slow, deliberate. Then it stopped, and I swear I heard something breathing, right on the other side of the wall. The next morning, I told the landlord. He looked surprised. "That can't be. There's no one there. I still have the only key." "You sure?" I asked. "Because I heard someone inside, moving." He shrugged it off. "Old buildings make weird sounds." I tried to believe him. But each night after that, the sounds got worse. The following Friday night, I was up reading in bed when I heard knocking. But not on my door, on the inside wall I shared with 3B. 3 slow knocks. I froze. Then I heard whispering, low, raspy, like someone talking right against the wall. I pressed my ear to the plaster, and what I heard made my skin crawl. It wasn't English. It wasn't even words. Just a series of sounds, almost like humming, mixed with growling, like 2 voices overlapping. I stepped back and turned all the lights on. I didn't sleep that night. The next evening, something even stranger happened. I was brushing my teeth when the hallway light turned off on its own. My bathroom door creaked open slightly, even though I had locked it. Then my phone buzzed. I picked it up. "Unknown number, he's coming." I dropped my phone. I ran into the hallway and checked 3B, still closed. But this time, there were scratches on the door, fresh, deep. 2 days later, things escalated. Around 3 a.m., I heard my doorknob jiggling, like someone was trying to come in. I ran to the door, looked through the peephole. No one. Then, knock, knock, knock. That's soft, slow, still no one. I opened the door slightly to peek out. Maybe a neighbor was playing a prank. There was no one. But on the ground, a small envelope. I picked it up. Inside was a torn photo, blurry, black and white. It showed a man standing in my hallway, tall, thin, no face, and on the back, written in what looked like dry blood, "You've seen him now." At that point, I was done. I started packing, but I needed proof before I left. So I set up my phone facing my front door that night, left the hallway light on. Around 3:12 a.m., the temperature in my room dropped drastically. I woke up shivering, heart racing. I checked the recording. At 3:08 a.m., something stepped into the frame. A man, or what looked like a man. Very tall, unnaturally thin, his head tilted to one side. He had no eyes, just sunken holes. His body twitched like it was glitching. He walked slowly to my door, leaned close, and whispered something. I turned up the volume. It was my name. Then he lifted his hand and placed it through the peephole. Not on it, through it, like his hand passed through matter. Then the video glitched, went black. I left that morning, left half my stuff behind. I didn't care. The landlord didn't question anything. In fact, when I told him I was leaving, he simply nodded and said, "You're not the first." A few weeks later, I saw an online forum post titled "Cursed Apartment 3B, Hollow Pines." Others had experienced the same things: whispers, scratches, shadows, and photos. No one stayed longer than a month. Some said the unit was cursed. Others believed a man died there in 1972, murdered in a ritual. No body was found, but ever since, no one has been able to live in 3B without seeing him. Now, whenever I move to a new place, the first thing I check is who lives across the hall. Because if no one does, I don't stay. Some doors don't need keys. Some neighbors don't need to be alive. Before you move on to the next terrifying story, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with your friends. Your support keeps this horror journey alive. My name is Leo. I'm 27 now, and I live in a busy city, surrounded by noise and people. But 5 years ago, I stayed in a small town in Illinois, working a temporary job at a furniture warehouse. I lived alone in a rented basement apartment below an old house. The rent was cheap, and the place was quiet, a little too quiet if I'm being honest. But I needed the privacy, and I told myself I could handle a few creaky walls and drafty windows. But what happened in that basement still haunts me to this day, and until now, I've never told a single soul about it. It started on my first week. The landlord, an older woman named Mrs. Grant, lived upstairs. She was polite but distant, the type of landlord who preferred not to talk unless the rent was late. Before handing me the keys, she gave one warning: "Whatever you do, don't go into the second storage room." I frowned. "The one near the boiler?" She nodded. "Yes, that room stays locked. Don't try to open it." I asked her why, but she didn't answer. Just said previous tenant had issues with that room. Let it be. I should have listened. My basement apartment was small. One bedroom, a kitchen, a tiny bathroom, and a long hallway that led to 2 old storage rooms. The first storage room I used for boxes. The second one, the one she warned me about, had a thick wooden door with a rusted padlock on it. The air near that door was always cold, and I always felt uneasy walking past it, but I didn't touch it. Not until things started happening. The first incident was small. Late one night, I turned off the lights and went to bed. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a soft clicking sound, like a light switch being flipped on and off. I sat up and looked around. The hallway light was flickering, slowly, steadily. I got up, walked to the switch, flipped it off. It stopped. I assumed it was a wiring issue, until the next night, when it happened again, and the next night, again. Always around 2 a.m. Then, on the 6th night, it changed. This time, the flickering didn't stop. And it wasn't the hallway light. It was the light under the door of the second storage room, the one that was supposed to be locked. I stood there, frozen. A soft humming sound came from inside, almost like whispering, but muffled. I leaned in closer, but the moment my hand reached for the doorknob, the light went out, and everything went silent. The next day, I asked Mrs. Grant again, "Did someone ever live in that storage room?" She went pale. "That's not a room for people," she said, then quietly added, "Don't open that door, Leo, please." I should have moved out. I knew something was off, but curiosity got the better of me. That night, I brought a flashlight, a screwdriver, and gloves. Around 1:58 a.m., I stood in front of the locked door. I could already hear a faint buzz from the other side, like electricity. At exactly 2 a.m., the light under the door turned on again. I forced the lock open. It clicked. The door creaked. And what I saw inside, it wasn't a storage room. The room was empty, but the walls were covered in writing. Carved into the concrete, dozens of names, dates, and phrases like, "It watches. 2 a.m. every night. He lives in the light." At the far end was an old, broken light bulb hanging from a wire, but it was glowing brightly, even though it wasn't connected to anything. I took one step in, and the door slammed shut behind me. I tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. Suddenly, the light turned red, and then I heard something breathing in the room with me, not next to me, not behind me, above me. I looked up. There was no ceiling, just darkness. And then, from that blackness, a face slowly descended, white, stretching, smiling, no eyes, just 2 hollow sockets and a jaw that unhinged like a snake. I screamed. I don't remember much after that. When I woke up, I was in my bed. The door to the storage room was locked again, the light gone. But my flashlight was on the floor outside the door. I moved out that morning. A few months later, I Googled the address. The previous tenant had been reported missing, never found. Same with the guy before him. Both gone without a trace. Both lived in that basement unit. To this day, I don't know what I saw in that room. But every night, I wake up at 2 a.m. And for a second, I feel like someone is still watching me from above. If you ever rent a basement apartment with a locked room, don't ask. Don't look. And whatever you do, never open the door when the light comes on. My name is Ray. I'm 26. And until last year, I used to work part-time as a late-night delivery guy for a local pizza place in my hometown, Elder Grove. It wasn't a big town, but weekends were busy, and I didn't mind the late shifts. I actually liked driving at night. No traffic, quiet roads, and a good playlist. But what happened on my last night as a delivery driver changed everything. I've never told anyone this in full detail. Not because I didn't want to, but because people wouldn't believe me. But now, I just want to get it off my chest. Maybe someone will believe me. Maybe it'll stop someone else from going down that same road. It was a rainy Friday night, cold, misty, and quiet. The kind of night where time moves slow and every shadow looks alive. It was already 11:45 p.m., and we were closing in 15 minutes. I'd done my final delivery and was back at the shop, getting ready to clock out. The other guy working the shift, Mike, was already mopping the floor. Then the phone rang. Mike looked at it and groaned. Ugh, who's ordering at this hour? He answered, then turned to me with a weird look. Ray, this one's for you. I frowned. What do you mean? The guy on the phone asked for you, by name. That was strange. I had no friends in town who do that as a joke. And besides, why call the shop and ask for a specific delivery guy? Mike handed me the receipt. It was already paid online. Delivery address, House 404B, Bellevue Road. Leave at doorstep. Do not knock. Do not speak. Do not wait. What the hell? I said, chuckling nervously. Is this a prank? Mike just shrugged. Paid in full. Just drop it and go. I almost said no. Almost. But I needed the money. One last run. What could go wrong? Bellevue Road is way out on the edge of town. I'd never had a delivery there before. My GPS took me to the main road, then directed me to a side lane, a narrow gravel path leading into thick woods. I should have turned back, but I didn't. My car's headlights barely cut through the fog. The trees on either side were so dense they looked like they were closing in. The rain had stopped, but the mist was heavy. Everything felt wrong. Finally, after about 7 minutes of crawling down that path, I saw the house, 404B. It looked like it hadn't been lived in for years. The windows were boarded, paint peeling off the walls, no car, no lights, except for a single flickering porch bulb. I parked. For a full minute, I just sat there, staring. Something deep in my gut was screaming, "Don't go!" But I got out anyway. I approached the porch. Every step felt heavier than the last. There were no sounds, no crickets, no wind, just silence. I placed the pizza box at the door. Then I turned around, fast walking back to my car. And then I heard it. I froze. The door behind me had opened. I turned around slowly. The door was now half open. The flickering light behind it cast long, twisted shadows inside. But no one was there. I squinted. Hello? No answer. I started backing away. Then a whisper, right in my ear. Thank you, Ray. I whipped around. No one. I ran. I don't think I've ever moved that fast in my life. I jumped into my car, locked the doors, and sped out of there. But as I was leaving, I looked in the rearview mirror. There was someone standing in the middle of the path. Tall, pale, dressed in something old, like it belonged in another century. They were holding the pizza box and staring straight at me. No movement, just watching. When I got home, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the windows. Every time the wind creaked the floorboards, I jumped. The next morning, I went straight to the store and asked Mike about the order. He looked at me confused. What order? I told him the address, the instructions, everything. He pulled up the system records, and then he showed me the screen. There was no order past 11:30 p.m. No call, no payment, no ticket. It was like it never happened. I showed him the receipt I still had in my jacket. He took it and scanned it. Ray, this receipt is blank. There's nothing printed on it. I took it back. The words were gone. Just a plain white slip now. I checked my phone. No GPS log, no route history, no memory of the destination. But I still remember it all. Every second, every feeling, every whisper. I quit that day. Weeks later, I tried researching the house. No records, no 404B on Bellevue Road, just 404A and 404C, an empty space in between them. I even drove down Bellevue Road again during the day. That gravel path? Gone. Nothing but dense trees and wild overgrowth. I haven't delivered a pizza since that night. And every now and then, when I close my eyes, I still hear that whisper. Thank you, Ray. Some deliveries aren't meant for the living. So if you ever work late shifts like I did, and you get a call asking for you by name, don't go. No tip is worth what I saw that night.